test, test. So, hey guys, we're just getting started here. I'll go get Steven and Gabby, if you will. Hey, Gabby. Hello, hello, hello. And Steven, oh, you're kind of low. Yeah. Steven, can you lower your camera? Oh, there we go, there we go. Alright, so we're doing good here. What? You can't hear? I mean, I can hear you, Steven. Wait, Gabby, can you hear us? Alright, cool. So, should we get started? What? Oh. No, I can't hear any, like, air conditioning or computer fans. Oh. No, I don't think so. Yeah. So, we're talking Incredibles 2. Which, boy, this is a really awkward way to start. I don't know, do any of you guys want to go first in terms of what we thought about them? Because I know, Steven, you definitely liked it, but you gave more of a very good-ish review on Twitter rather than something that's, like, excellent. And I think I'm in kind of a similar camp as you, Steven. Yeah. Hold on. I'm just adjusting a couple things. What? Yeah. Yeah. It was totally cool. I mean. Mhm. Really? But hold on. Let me adjust something. How about now? Does it sound better?
Yeah, slightly. Like if you can just either bring it a bit closer or make it a bit more sensitive, that should.
Great. Now I can't hear. Hold on a second. Um. Um. Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you just fine. I was just saying that compared to the rest of us, your audio is slightly more quieter. So that's what I'm just saying. Like, bring it closer to yourself.
Yeah, no, I can't do that. I couldn't use my usual microphone today because I couldn't find the cable, so I'm using my webcam's mic, so that's why I might sound a little off.
Can you maybe bring yourself like closer to the webcam, like just bring the chair up
Uh,
a bit?
I let me try moving up the webcam itself. How's this?
Yeah, that's surprising. Yeah, that's better.
Oh, and hey, oh, I yeah, actually, I'm like it better too in terms of the lighting. But yeah, so where do we go from here? In terms of my opinion.
Yeah, sure.
Which I honestly think I'm somewhere in between the two of you guys in that I would say, in terms of, like, I was satisfied with the plot. I didn't really see it as just an excuse. And honestly, I don't know about your, expectations, Steven, but I honestly had kind of low expectations for Incredibles 2. Just in terms of, it seemed like it was just going to be I thought it was going to be Elastigirl the movie, and that was about it. But I was actually quite surprised that a good chunk of it was also you're watching Bob Parr, aka Mr. Incredible, like take care of Dash Violet and Jack Jack, which we could get into. I mean, I should have remembered from the first movie because the first movie in the first act, so much of it was about Bob's midlife crisis, which I gotta say I like the how it handled the sort of family issues here better than the first. Like I thought they were able to handle that, but also keep the pacing on point. Because I know midlife crisis is a bit of a slog, but I just kind of felt the pacing in the first one went a little slow for my taste. Which, granted, when I first saw Incredibles, I think I was like 9 years old. It was back in like '05, like when it first came out on DVD. But even when I watched, I remember when I was taking AP psychology in high school, we actually watched the movie to learn about midlife crisis. And even then, even though I got it, it still kind of felt a bit slow. Like I was able to, understand that Bob missed the glory days of superheroes, but I guess I didn't really get into the details. But here, like him trying to raise a family, it like for me, it's totally comprehensible, and the pacing was much more on point.
Hmm. I honestly had not noticed that from when I'd watched it. I haven't watched the first Incredibles in so long, I will admit.
Hmm.
Um, the main
See,
thing I remember is that whole midlife crisis kind of being on the back burner for me. I guess part of it has to do with the age I was watching it at,
Mm-hmm.
but I was a lot more interested in the whole superhero family and how they use their powers kind of deal.
see, here's where I'm gonna stray off from you guys because unlike both of you, even though it's been a while since I have seen the first Incredible, when saw, okay, first I saw it in theaters, then I owned the DVD, and then I watched that DVD over and over and over to the point where now I practically have the movie memorized. So
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I had every line, almost every line in that movie memorized. So one thing I can say right now is, even though I personally didn't relate to the midlife crisis when I was at the age that I saw it, I definitely understood why it did make that the focus, because it essentially mirrored how the whole deal with superheroes uh, not being wanted by society after the destruction that they caused, which is something that a lot of out of a lot of the later superhero movies, like in Marvel, and even in this one, started to copy off of. And even after that, I just liked how when it finally did end up slowly transitioning into the superhero stuff, it it kind of revealed just how threatening this lifestyle was in comparison to how it was in the middle. Like in the middle, it's kind of sneaking its way in, and it's built up brilliantly to the point where that reveal, once it finally gets to Syndrome's plan, is just people forget it's a PG movie, but it has probably the biggest body count I can think of any Pixar film.
Yeah, definitely.
Like
Well,
even in this movie, when they bring up the whole, oh, I had by Robin and Gazer Beam, I had their phone numbers. In the back of my mind, I'm still thinking, oh yeah, both of those two, I just saw them with a terminated message right in front of the screen when I was a kid.
Yeah, you make a really good point
mm-hmm.
there.
And that's another thing I'd say I have a problem with this movie in particular, is just I get it. The villain is more of an afterthought, but I just don't feel the same level of threat that I did with Syndrome. I'm not even going with the whole fanboy commentary thing. I'm fine with that. That was a one-time thing. I'm glad that they tried something new, but when I think the thing about Syndrome, apart from him being a social commentary, is that he was a legitimate threat. The screen flavor and the actual screen flavor, let's be honest here, how many victims were there? And how many of them were actually killed? None. They were just simply arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I get where you're going. You didn't have the same kind of impact as far as like stakes go,
Oh yeah.
but I kind of feel like that whole deal is something that's a little more relatable now, uh, especially with um, you know how things go around with the internet, and a lot of people are like, who's the real bad guy? Can we trust people? That kind of deal. I feel like the villain that they picked for the second Incredibles kind of fit that a little more, which is why I kind of imagine they went with something like that. And as far as like uh, feeling that same kind of, you know,
Threat.
strength coming from the villain, as you did in the first, I don't think one can really expect that from a sequel, because it's just kind of like, hey, they already had the chance to think of the best uh, kind of story for their own group of characters once. Because that's probably going to be their best bet to come up with like a really good villain that fits the other characters that they have. But once you already do that, it it's really hard to find something that has that same kind of impact. So I honestly didn't have too much of a problem with it there.
See, I would agree if only I didn't already see Pixar mostly succeed with the Toy Story sequels. Which, I'll be honest, like I'm not. No, I don't think either of the Toy Story sequels are as tight as the first movie, but they're no, but they come pretty close to reaching them. And part of that, I feel, is they managed to, in three different ways, they managed to find ways in which they would have either humans or toys that would be a threat to these toys. Like when I think back to the teddy bear in Toy Story 3, that is some brutal stuff right there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but you also have to keep in mind that even looking at like the first Toy Story, there wasn't as much of a cemented um, villain. I would say yes, there was a villain, but looking
See,
at the way that the story goes, you don't have the same kind of setup as you would with like a superhero movie. Because with a superhero movie, it's not just a villain; it's a super villain. And this supervillain has to be really crazy, really strong. So right off the bat, you're going to be like, okay, this guy needs to be scary, or this guy needs to be really crazy, you know? And they didn't really have to do that too much with Toy Story, which is why I feel like the Toy Story sequels had a bit more of a chance.
Bobby, it seems like you want to say something right now.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you, Steven, in terms of I didn't really see Screenslaver as big a threat. Not that she didn't interest me, like throughout the whole time. And by the way, I should point out spoilers because I think even giving out Screenslaver's gender is a really big sign, to be quite honest. Yeah, let's just say when you get into the first act, you'll.
To be honest, I won't say what goes on, but I wouldn't say it's like a really, really big, crazy reveal. You can kind of see it coming. That much I'll say.
Well, let's just say my second guess on who Screenslaver was correct. But anyway, like I did like think like I'm trying not to say the word like 100 times. I wanted to know, like, I was guessing who the heck is this, like, villain? Who is this, like, person? And, I'm guessing the whole time. But I didn't really get as much big of a threat as, like, Syndrome. Not that, and it's so weird because I actually rewatched deleted scenes from the original Incredibles recently. It was the deleted scene was the original intro. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it. It involved the family's at a barbecue, and then when they go home, it's like in this deleted scene, Syndrome actually pops up at the beginning of the movie, and
I don't think that was necessary. Only because Syndrome already showed up.
No, not as Incrediboy, but I mean, like, he's got his possessing laser, he's got the suit and everything. Like, it's a much different opening than the original. I recommend checking it out. It's actually kind of interesting. But anyway, even just from watching, like, that alone, even just from that deleted scene, I got much more of a threat. And maybe that's because maybe it has to do with how... I mean, I know you guys are on the internet a lot, but, like, as a person who watches YouTubers who get attacked by fanboys, doxing, DDoS attacks, trolls coming to YouTubers' houses... Like, maybe I could, sort of relate to that. Not that I've had to deal with hardcore, like, that kind of trolling, but that's where I kind of felt a character like Syndrome was much more relatable. In terms of Screenslaver, I just kind of felt, well, she basically wanted, like, vengeance because the heroes didn't come and her dad was, killed off, And I'm just like, it's another one of those stories.
See, I think the reason why I immediately that right there is where I felt the disconnect, because the audience already knows that the whole reason why that didn't happen is those heroes were already dead, and by the time the government had already revealed what Syndrome had done, all of the heroes were dead. So I don't understand how the grudge would go to that extent, or how that would match with their current plan, because it feels like something that she would have planned when that actually happened, not much years later. Because it's a clumsy plan, to be honest.
I want to say I don't really see that being much of a problem, only because I feel like in a situation like that, it's extremely easy for anyone, no matter how forgiving or how really sensitive they are, can feel really hurt despite knowing all these facts. It's just something something that never really goes away. At least that's how I feel. So I think like it just be something that slowly would ingrain in a character like Screenslaver. You know, just being like, okay, we know she's wrong, and we know it's a flaw, but again, people are flawed, and a person would legitimately have this kind of view. So I was still okay with it.
Yeah, because I've seen many characters who have gone from situations we've seen again and again and again, and for me, it's just a matter of character investment, you know, and
And again, this isn't taking away the fact that this is overdone, because it is overdone, and I think that's the main problem, I guess.
yeah, that's where I'm kind of getting at.
I personally don't feel that problem takes away from my own personal enjoyment of the film.
It doesn't. I mean, I was like invested in the character, but not really in her, like, dilemma. I mean, obviously, if this, happened to like me or somebody else, this would obviously really burn. But in terms of a character, I just like, okay, hey, she's burned, like, she's really upset. She basically kind of wants vengeance on heroes, but in terms of, I don't know, I just didn't like, really get into
I,
her as much.
I think the reason why what I mean by it's overdone in particular is just apart from the fact that the public would already know about the specifics of that circumstance. The reason why I don't think it works is that I think her plan, when you read it down and compare it to her motivation, it keeps on bringing in my head up. But wait, what? That doesn't match. Like, for example, her whole her whole final plan is to make sure heroes are illegal for good. They already are illegal. She was part of the plan that was gonna bring it back. Why didn't she just create another disturbance that would basically put it down immediately? Why didn't she just input the mind controls beforehand? There's just an idea of the amount of work they would put into setting it up only for her to try taking it down. It just seems pointless, really. Like, artificially creating a villain and the situations where Elastigirl could take care of them. Yeah, there's this disconnect between the moments once you hear what the actual final plan is.
I get what you're saying, although I still think, it could have worked. Like, I'm just kind of judging as is. I mean,
Yeah.
you could argue.
I'm trying to think, like, if Helen didn't find who that she was the actual screenslaver, how would it have changed?
Well, I think possibly there'd be some sort of point where it's turned over onto her. Perhaps maybe even making her look like it was like the screenslaver. Just how they you know, got someone else to get arrested for it. And then from there being like, oh, these superheroes are, just looking out for themselves. They just want to be liked, but not in the right way, and they just want us to be scared. So no, we're not going to have them anymore.
I think honestly that right there would be a more interesting result than what they went
Well,
with.
that's the thing. Her plan didn't really go to a point where she could do that. And you have to keep in mind that also her own sibling who is extremely close with her and just doesn't get the picture is right there behind her, poking her and egging her to help him with his own plan to help the superheroes. So, of course, she's going to be like, oh, gosh, no, fine. Oh, if only it gives me a chance to, make them look bad in the end or something like that. So I didn't really see. I will admit it wasn't implemented well, but it could work. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I I think the reason why, no, okay, I keep on saying I think the reason why. There's several reasons why, but you brought up a good point right there with the sibling. I think the reason why that didn't register to me is that it's essentially uh she great, she has a point for why relying on heroes wouldn't work. Uh, that point didn't end up affecting any of them. They just go with what the older sibling was planning to begin with. Legalize superheroes. Don't even put any into consideration that there would still be casualties whatsoever. Like I think back to I know Bobby hasn't seen this, but I'm pretty sure Gabby, you've seen this, right? Right? Black Panther.
Yeah, yeah, I saw Black Panther.
That fight, the actual fights in that movie are boring as hell, and the structure is all over the place. But one thing it does really right is, for a brief moment, it lets a villain come into power that has a point, and when it comes the time for the hero to beat him, he takes his point into consideration for his future actions. He doesn't just go with what they already had planned as this is the right way. But with this, they pretty much do that. They just go with what was planned before. This other point, screw that. It's invalid. I just think there was a way to, if they were gonna try to force this point through, they should have made it matter more by the end. Because all it really ended up doing was, okay, here's a motivation so that we have a super villain fight.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And I think also another thing that was kind of driving the character in, as far as the screen flavor goes, because she was, well, they were pretty aware. They were pretty aware that whatever they said wasn't really going to be taken into account. They were just going to be ignored. And instead of being forceful or anything, if you could kind of, think of that make like for an extreme motivation, it's obvious that they decided to go with a more passive aggressive type of approach. And I find that a lot of passive aggressive approaches to situations like this, they just end up being very confusing for a lot of people. And I'm here like, oh, okay, I can see why you want to do that.
Really, I'm not really. I'm just kind of, I'm just really getting sick of this whole cliche of the secret villain. Because the best I think I've seen it implemented is either Frozen or Coco, and even then they still have. Really, what makes the whole secret villain cliche bad, in my opinion, is that it inherently seems to reduce the villains into stereotypes. Like, whatever point they have, or may have had, kind of gets reduced to just cartoonishly evil once they make that turnover.
I guess. Although, me personally.
Utopia is the worst. Utopia is the worst, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think.
Although, it's funny enough, I would say Coco, had, I would say, a much more, interesting villain. But, yeah, I don't know. I think just as, kind of a story device, it's now just something we just come to expect whenever Disney comes up with an animated movie. Like, pretty much ever since Frozen, it's always like, okay, it's either who's the villain or this or one of the characters is going to turn.
I would say it's for kind of like, I don't know. I feel like there is like a group of people out there who enjoy it, and I think that's why we kind of still see it. You know, just because it's like, see, you know, you gotta remember this lesson, guys. Don't trust anyone just off the bat.
Great, then just make a spy thriller where that is appropriate. Stop it with this bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, if they didn't do it as much, I mean, I wouldn't bother me as much because, you know, at the end of the day, what makes a villain is ultimately, you know, character investment and what this, you know, character he or she is about. Because, you know, Disney has had great villains even before they went down this road. I'm pretty sure, especially Steven could argue some maybe even better than some of the ones we mentioned at least. So I don't know. Just for me, it's just getting overused, and now it's like every time there's a Disney movie, they always, you know, put in a twist villain, in order to just make us think, oh, who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? But it just comes down to, we'll have to either guess it or one of the main characters is gonna be the villain. You know.
Oh look, it's old man Shinkin. That's what it boils down to. It's a
I don't know if
Scooby-Doo
I've dumbed
episode.
it down to that extent, but I definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And I guess we might need to keep into consideration that this kind of thing is also possibly exciting for the younger audiences.
Yeah. I mean,
Possibly.
I'll be really.
I don't know. I feel like younger me would possibly be like, "Oh my god, I didn't see that coming! Whoa!"
Yeah, admittedly,
But
same
then
here.
I'm also a very gullible little kid.
Nah, don't worry. I was like that too, Gabby. It wasn't until I started like really studying movies that I started looking out for things that I tend to see often, and you know things like
And you gotta
archetypes and all
start
that.
somewhere. You gotta start somewhere, right?
Yeah, I mean to be fair, maybe that's why, but you know, an overused story device is, you know, overused. You know.
Hey,
And going
I'm not gonna act like younger me was any better. Back when the first Transformers came out, I thought Megatron was cool just because of how much shit he blew up.
and going back to Coco, I feel like one of the things that made the whole twist thing really work with Coco is the whole underlying theme of family.
hmm
And for me, I've always noticed that there's some sort of dismissive kind of like air as far as trust goes regarding family members. There's this kind of idea that I noticed that it's just kind of like, oh, but you're related to them. You should trust them. You know, you gotta treat them right because their blood runs through your veins. But then you kind of think about it, and you're like, well, that doesn't make them feel the same way. So you do kind of have to be careful with that sometimes. And heck, you have to say that sometimes family members do things that just aren't really okay. But again, that's a very specific situation in which I think that the whole twist thing really worked in Coco. Not to mention that it was clarifying that this person was not related to them.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, I honestly didn't even see it coming. Like, I guess I forgot for a second, oh yeah, it's Disney, post-Frozen, I have to expect a twist, but yeah, I pretty much agree.
Really what I appreciated the most out of the film. It was just something that I was like, yeah, I kind of saw that was going to happen. I'm more interested on this whole thing over here about resolving the conflict within the entire family.
Well,
Like,
that's another thing I would say with this movie, honestly. Even though the trailers make it not so much about the, oh look, it's the strong, independent woman mom going on her superhero journey. Well, as we discussed, because the villain is so uninteresting, ironically, her superhero moments, even probably the best moments for her were with the action scene. But when it came to the heart and soul, it was still with Bob because I was honestly much more entertained and much more invested with Bob just trying to work as a single paw.
And I'm going to say one thing, I can see that too. I feel like it kind of went in tears. Like, yeah, you had at face value the whole, oh, independent, strong woman can fight, yeah, woo! And it's like, wait, oh my gosh, Dad's struggling and understanding what it's like to be a family person here, oh my god. And then
And
you
a
take
special
those
kid,
kids that,
a special needs kid that turns into a demon fire baby who needs
what?
cookies, otherwise he will bite your head off.
That is a very special need. But you take those two, and you lift them up, and then you kind of see what I feel was kind of moving the whole movie along, because you see this slowly progress through the whole film, despite these other kind of obstacles that you're seeing resolved as well. But having trust in kids.
Yeah, I would
Because
say that was a
you
really big
have
part.
this underlying kind of theme of, hey, parents get worried about their kids. And I can relate to that so much. I worry about my friend. I always hear my parents talking to me about, oh my gosh, are you alright? Do you have money? Hey, maybe you should do something else, or blah, blah, blah. You know, just trying to figure out how I am and making sure I'm okay. And you see that a lot, both with Bob and with, I'm sorry, I don't really know her.
Helen?
Helen.
Yeah, last girl.
Yeah, I know her better, like the last to go stuff. But you see them, and you know, they're all like, we're a team, you guys will help out. How do we help out, Pa? Take care of Jack Jack.
Yeah, here's the thing. That honestly, I think early on, just Helen's overprotectiveness, it did kind of bother me because I already felt that they resolved that arc midway through the first movie. That one of my favorite scenes in the first movie is just when they're stuck inside that cave, and Helen is talking to the kids, saying like, don't think of these people as some cartoon villains that will just wait for you or just let you walk away. They will kill you if they have the chance. Do not give them that chance. And ironically, this movie does have the cartoon villains that won't kill the kids, and yet the mother is being the total opposite of a situation where they were in danger at first. In fact, the kids were the one that saved them in the very first mission before she was trying to hold them back, and she's still acting like that. So even though it was trying to present that whole double-sided, double-sided worry, I was honestly on Bob's side throughout the movie, and by the time that the kids did make the rescue and they brought it up, I think they kind of brushed it aside. They didn't really address it because it's almost like the writers knew that Helen was wrong because they already proved her wrong in the first movie.
Yeah.
The other thing too, I think for me, what really sold it was the fact that if you think about how parents are, that's kind of what they do. Yeah, you're not really going to have that moment where, oh, they're gonna be like, oh my god, my kid can actually take care of themselves. Like, no, that's no. Which is why I'm not surprised at all that they kind of brush it off, because it's like, yeah, no parent is going to be that sure. I've not met a parent that sure that they want their kids to do everything, that they feel they have the potential to do anything and everything that they want in this whole world. Yes. Did they see them actually going through with it? That's another question, and I think that kind of comes off in the movie a little, to a point where I could still find it relatable.
Yeah.
Which is why, again, I think the whole thing that really moved it along was that. I mean, yeah, you did still kind of have that with the kids in the first movie, but they were still kind of at the position where they weren't sure of themselves. They could have easily messed up. But in the second movie, they were sure. They were ready to do something, and they had experience. So they were willing to go and make their own decisions. You know, maybe still not the best decisions, but their own decisions. Well,
Yeah.
in the first movie, it was a little bit more the whole idea that they were kind of like, oops, well, now there's not really much else to do, or, you know, they're like, we just want to be here! Please take us! You know, it was more of a legitimate kind of like, let us prove ourselves, please. We can do this. Let us help.
Yeah, I mean, and trust me, I'm pretty sure. I mean, are there parents out there? They're like, oh yeah, my kid could take of him or herself. I'm not gonna like dismiss that. That's not a possibility at all. And I'm like the one with the parents who, like, you know, I come from a family that's basically like if unless if you're going to medical school or law school, you're not really seen as a grown up. Like, I could totally relate to that. I think for me, like, I can understand Helen being like overprotective, like, of her kids and so forth. I guess for me, the only thing that's missing is why did it go from she's letting them help them out to nope, you're our kids, we gotta protect you. Like, I kind of felt there was this sort of disconnect. Like, I could understand her feeling that way, but there was literally, like, wasn't there, like, a dinner table conversation when they're in that apartment where, I forgot, was it either Dash or Violet? They were like, but you said back on the island that we got, no.
Yeah, that was one of the first scenes in the movie.
And that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at, because it's that kind of thing where a parent will want their kid to do it, and they know that that's how their kid is going to learn to do it. But then once they're about to let their kid do it, they get that epiphany of like, oh my god, something horrible can happen.
Yeah.
Right there in that moment. Right there in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they see that, they're like, oh my god, nope, stop, get over here, nope. We're not doing it. Never mind. Nope, I changed my mind.
Yeah, I just kind of felt like I didn't really see that when they were fighting the Underminer. You know, I mean, I think there were definitely like a couple risky. Even during the fight, weren't Dash and Violet just kind of like, you know, at first they were told to just stay put, and then they started, you know, running in because, you know, push came to shove?
Well, that's the thing. They were told to take care of the civilians and Jack. They decided to go in later because they saw that their mom and their dad still needed more backup right there where everything was going.
Right.
Not to mention, they were still bickering over who has to stay behind with Jack.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of where you see also why Elastigirl's like, oh my gosh, these kids are not
and I think midway through the movie, I think they realized, looking after Jack? No, they should be throwing Jack at whatever is in front of them.
Actually, yeah, come to think of it, because they didn't, like, Bob didn't know that Jack had powers until, like, halfway through the movie, and then Helen found out in the climax, so I guess in that you could understand, okay, they gotta protect Jack, they don't know that he's pretty much a walking atom bomb. Well,
oh yeah, Jack is a weapon of mass destruction. He must be quarantined.
Can I just say how much I love seeing Edna and Jack kind of like.
I know that was Steven's favorite scene.
I just wanted an entire movie. I just wanted an entire TV episode on how Jack was like inside that castle.
Yes. I said pretty much the same thing. Like, if we just get that whole interaction that we missed out in between, to see how they came from that moment where she was like super excited, and then where they were just like completely bonded.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Take my money.
In fact, funny enough, for my subscribers out there, when I put up that video telling people about, and we could probably talk about this later, the problems with screenslavers' way of attacking, guess what was one of the keywords YouTube suggested me to use?
What?
And I won't say it out loud because my sis is nearby and she does not want to be spoiled. So I'll just write it out for you guys here. Can you read it?
What?
Wait.
What?
It's not a squirrel.
Oh, it wasn't. It was no. It
It's
was
a raccoon.
raccoon. Yes.
It was a trash can. Oh my god.
Yeah. So it's
That
already.
was some top grade slapstick right there. That was gold. Jack versus raccoon.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that. I guess I had a bit of a Freudian slip, but yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And I just that was another scene I really liked for various reasons. One may or may not be just because it had a raccoon in it, but
A raccoon that was terrified for his life.
with good reason too. He just wanted some food.
But just like no, when you're in Jack's way, he's pretty much the most destructible person.
And the reason why he goes after him too is just like, really? He's a bandit.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, same here.
Ooh, well, how did I completely forget about that? Thank you for reminding me.
Oh my god, that was one of the most memorable scenes in the movie. Let alone.
I know, which is why I'm so surprised. It shows how even when I absolutely enjoy something, my brain can just be like, no, we don't need that anymore.
Wow. I mean, it happens to me too, but that scene. I knew I wanted to talk about it.
Was laughing at that scene. But the funny thing is, when me and Bobby went to see it together, I was seated next to a baby that would not stop talking throughout the entire movie. So at times, I had to keep on checking the screen and the seat next to me to make sure that it was Jack talking, because otherwise I would just think Jack is in every scene because this baby will not stop talking.
Aww.
And we know Jack can be everywhere. He crosses dimensions, so I was so confused.
He even clones himself.
Yes, he is literally everywhere. Why? Because this baby tells me.
You know, am I the only one who finds it weird how, with the other members of the family, their powers are pretty well defined? You know, Mr. Incredible's really strong, Elastigirl, has elasticity and can stretch out. But Jack, it's almost like they just gave him everything and anything.
Well, that's the thing. I heard somewhere that what the idea was is that, depending on the family member, they were going to base their power off of, I think they said, the expectations of that family member. Which is why, for example, Mr. Incredible, he's all about strength, the muscle, blah, blah, blah. The mom always...
I read that interview with Brad Bird.
And the whole deal with Jack was that this is just like untapped potential. It could be anything. Anything can come out.
I see.
He's gonna give him everything. And that also explains his name, because he's Jack of all trades.
Oh! Can't believe I didn't make that connection until just now. But yeah, it makes perfect sense.
That idea already had come to me a long time ago, but I was really happy to see that they implemented it. Because it makes so much sense. It's just so perfect.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So, is there anything, should we? This doesn't really have to do with, critiquing the movie, but did the screenslaver, when she took over the screens, did those scenes bother you? I know, Steven, you said it didn't. It kind of gave me a bit of a headache. Did it bother you, Gabby?
No.
No?
That's the other thing, though. I've never really had any problem with that. I know a lot of people have.
See,
So,
see, I don't have really problems with when it comes to like sickness, like sickness. It's virtual no virtual motion sickness never bothered me.
Hmm.
It because I can always disconnect by just you know uh, just reminding myself that it's on a screen. I'm weak towards like actual motion sickness, like if I'm in a car, in a bus, or especially on a plane.
Mm.
But when it comes to just flashing lights, no, I've never had that problem.
the one problem I have had that's kind of visual, is that I become, I guess what you would describe as hypersensitive around such kind of like, maybe you could say flashing lights or even just intense lights, but of vibrant colors. If it's vibrant colors, that'll flip me out like crazy. Not have to
Uh,
close my eyes.
Bobby, is there a way to bring up an image into this right in front of us?
You probably
Why?
won't be able to see it though. I mean, I
Why?
could. Are you sending me something?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna
I
test
don't
that
like the
theory.
look on your face, Steven.
I'm gonna test that theory right now.
I can take it at. Oh, but wait. Maybe it's better if you send it to Gaby, because for her to see it, she'll have to watch the YouTube stream.
All right then.
What is this? What are you doing, Steven? I'm scared.
You say that vibrant colors are what gets you.
Really, really vibrant colors. I'm talking about rainbow in your eyes, barfing, and intense speeds. Or just like a puke green.
Puke green, that's new.
Maybe even like a really intense, vibrant lime green, too. That'll do it.
Do you have to see it on a screen, or does it just have to be...
It's a lot more effective for me when it's in a big screen against the dark color. I have a lot of light here, so it might not be as bothersome for me as it would be. Dark rides. I can barely handle dark rides just because, oh my god. The intensity of the color that comes from that black light just...
Incoming!
Oh my god, okay, here we go. Oh boy, okay, here we go. Oh, it's loading. Oh, okay. See, this is fun. Oh
those
god,
are the audience that...
oh god. I'm imagining this in like a... oh.
Actually, Steven, maybe you could send it to me and I'll just put it in the stream to show everybody what you just sent Gaby.
Okay,
I'm with you. What? Okay.
I'm just gonna...
I'm imagining that moving now, and it's... oof. Yeah, probably something like that. Big screen. Room all dark. Oof.
Okay, Bobby, I'm gonna send you a link, a video link. You can probably just yeah, right. I'm gonna put that into the group chat. For anyone who doesn't know what the heck I've been talking about, we're talking.
Hold on. I'm in the middle of something at the moment. I'll be down right there.
Oh, you coming back, Abby?
Give me just a second.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Alright, Bobby, figure a way to screen the neon demon.
Yeah, it should be easy enough through OBS. Okay.
By the way, I'm...
Oh, yeah. Huh?
Oh, Did it work?
Since it's a link, I'm not really sure if I could put it in because I've been dealing with copyright problems lately.
Ooh.
But I'll put in a screenshot just to kind of give an idea of what's going on.
In times like this, GIFs would be ideal. Actually, maybe I can find a GIF.
Okay, if you can find a GIF of it, it would probably work. It would at least have like a smaller chance of getting copyright claimed by YouTube.
Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys.
Right, Steven?
They were so kind as to let me decide if I wanted any sides for dinner. Because we're getting Popeyes.
Oh. Cool.
Biscuits!
But yeah, Steven is just trying to find a...
Okay.
Okay.
Let me see if this works. Jiffy. Arr. Loading.
Okay, and fun fact.
Found it.
Fun
Yeah,
fact
I see. Hold on.
Fun fact about why stuff like this bothers me. As a kid, I don't know if it was just like a real problem coming from my own lack of sleep, because I've never been good with sleep. I'd be opening my eyes and stuff in the middle of the night, and my eyes would just be taken over by a whole bunch of like swirling colors, kind of like the stuff you see when you're just like really drunk from lack of sleep. My ears would just kind of go, you know, and you'd start feeling like there was a whole bunch of cotton on top
Yeah,
of you.
I'm trying to download it, Steven, but it won't let me. Let me actually see if I could. Like, I'll just like show it on my phone in the stream, just to be safe. For the people watching, this is what we were talking about.
Oh my god, I didn't see it moving. What? Ugh.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I could definitely understand that kind of thing would really,
Yeah,
hurt
and
your
like
eyes.
I said, so this is, yeah, I dealt with that as a kid. So, I guess every time I'm in a position like that, it just kind of takes me back there, so I'm like, oh god, no, I don't want to go there.
I don't want to go there. Don't take me.
Yeah, and it's really creepy too, because it would take shapes too. Like, once, for a while, it looked like a Muppet doctor looking down on me with like tools ready to open my mouth. Yeah, I was like, oh my god, guys, I don't want this anymore, help. So yeah, it's not too fun.
Yeah, probably not.
It's fun. I'm not like traumatized or anything like that. It's just a little uncomfortable. Just like, ow, my eyes. And that's about it.
Yeah, I see. But yeah, I think we were getting pretty off track with that. With the whole, I mean, if you guys want a couple more details, I did a separate video on that the people watching could check out on my YouTube channel. I will say though, there was one scene we didn't really talk about. The attack was basically Screenslaver would take over screens and show this flashing checkered pattern. There's this one scene where Elastigirl's fighting like who we think is Screenslaver, and the whole room is displaying that image. And yeah, I just remember watching that. Like I watched it, but at the same time, I'm just like, oh, there goes my eyesight. So,
yeah, I think the saving grace for me was that they set to black and white.
Yeah, I see. And I wanted to ask, how did is that Helen or Elastigirl? How was she able to like fight who we think is Screenslaver in that scene without getting hypnotized? Did I forget something?
Goggles, right?
I thought you just had to look at the pattern to...
Oh.
That's a good point. I think one could make the argument that part of hypnosis has to do with
vulnerability?
being kind of like willing, or I don't know if you would
I think it's
say
vulnerability or something like that.
Yeah, and being aware of it and kind of like knowing about it could possibly help you be like, okay, no, I'm not going to pay attention to you. Look at something else. Blah.
Yeah.
But in this situation, I don't think it works too well. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was just thinking the only way it could work is if she just like had her eyes closed and she was just like batting around like a blind person or something like that.
That would have been interesting. That would have been interesting.
Because I've definitely seen people try to fight hypnosis by like closing their eyes or even telling themselves, "Don't fall into this, don't fall into this, don't fall into this,"
Or covering their ears if it's like sound based.
Yeah. But I don't know.
But
maybe
this one was more visual. This one was more visual.
Definitely.
So.
But I guess we'll move on from that. Should we talk about like Violet's relationship?
That was honestly, apart from Jackass, that was my favorite.
Like, okay.
We talked over each other.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Gaby, repeat.
For me, it was just kind of like there. I was like, oh, okay, she wants to get a boyfriend. I guess it was a little bit of interest, mainly in the aspect of him getting his memory wiped. But
that's what made it special for me.
Yeah, I was kind of like, oh, okay.
And that kind of thing, you know how we were talking earlier about how I wasn't able to get into Screenslaver or because I wasn't invested, and part of it was I've seen this before. In the case of Violet's case, it's the kind of thing that we've seen this before where character wants to get with another character, but I mean, on top of the fact that he got his memory wiped, but I was able to emotionally get like invested. Like, on one hand you could say, well, just reintroduce yourself, but I totally understand if his memory is wiped. I totally understand Violet being like extremely upset with
I can tell you why I was able to get into that stuff. What? Because this definitely, I would say, is an improvement on the first movie. It built upon that good impression of Tony that we got at the very end of the first movie. Because the first movie, he's kind of just there as the object of Violet's affection, but we saw a slight glimpse of what he's like when he actually went to talk to Violet at the end. And the whole first scene of the movie is just Tony talking to the agent about how it feels, and in that small moment there, they do enough to characterize him as more than just the nice guy.
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, I mean, in the first movie, Tony was just basically, he was just like expedition, like Violet is the kind of teen girl we see in movies who, is crushing on this guy. Like, mainly to just ground her as a character. You know what I mean? Whereas in this movie, there was definitely a bit more development. But not too much to, like, overwhelm all that was going on in the movie.
I won't say I personally have a problem with how they did it, because it was done very well.
It felt like a standard plot that was executed well.
Yeah.
Me, the only reason why I kind of disconnected from it is my own kind of focus on something being necessary. I think for me, what hits me more is when something doesn't need to happen and it does so much damage. So for me, it's like, okay, I can see why they had to do that, so I'm not too upset. So I was like, oh, okay, poor Violet.
True, but why I think it worked is it's also kind of an extension of her desires back during the first movie, where of all the characters, she's the one that wants to have a normal life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think just the way they settled that subplot by the end, it felt like it got of all the things to tie up together, it felt like it got the neatest resolution because I will say the one character I think they underwrote or didn't give him much to do was Dash.
Yeah, oddly enough.
Yeah.
When in the first movie, Dash was the main character I was actually interested in.
Huh.
I think it's because like Dash, they just kind of wrote him to be the mischievous kid who needs help with math homework, whereas whereas the first movie is just that since he had to keep himself under control, he's easily bored.
Yeah.
That was something I could relate to so much.
Yeah, I remember.
I just find it funny, though, that it's like now, he's not that. He was supposed to be the dude who's like, I want to go for sports, but but I need to hold back, so I'm so bored, so I'm pulling pranks. And here, he like, screw. Even though they set up like, oh my gosh, there's a forest, I can run around everywhere. What does he do when he's done with dinner? Immediately jumps to the TV.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I will say the scene where he puts the thumbtack on the teacher's chair is like one of my dad's favorite scenes from the original. It used to make me and him laugh all the time.
Why do I remember it being a pine cone?
I don't know. I definitely remember it being a thumbtack. Like, you're like, he put a tack on my stool.
He put thumbtack on my stool. His camera, and this time I got him. I recognize
not.
Yeah, even just how it was just before he sits down. It's just like, oh. Just talking about it.
To the camera, like.
You want to know a funny thing? The reason why, another reason why I probably recognize so many lines from the movie is I had, apart from the DVD, I also had like this old, low system requirements like Windows PC game, which was filled with just mini games that kind of complied with parts of the movie. And one of those mini games, you get to play Dash trying to sneak those thumbtacks onto the chair.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, the whole point of the game is that
one, and I have a Treasure Planet one.
Yeah, good. The whole point of it is that the math teacher is constantly writing stuff on the board, and there's this warning signal when he's about to stop. And if he turns around and you're out of your seat, you get a penalty.
Shoot.
Oh my god. That sounds hilarious.
So I guess we covered that, and it's so weird. Like it wasn't until you guys mentioned that Dash was kind of underused, and I'm just like, yeah, what did he do in the second one? He was like, oh my god, this house is great, and then he's just like, oh, I need help with math homework. Why did they change math? And that's it.
I think
that and complaining about having to look after Jack.
I think oh yeah, and complaining about vegetables. Who ordered all vegetables?
Like, I don't know, he just kind of felt like comedic relief, and that's about it. Maybe I'm just satisfied because there's already like what 3 different kind of subplots going on. We got the thing with Helen, Bob, and Violet, and it's just like, and also Jack. So I guess I was just like, well, I don't know. On one hand, it's like, yeah, if they put in a 5th, that's a lot to juggle. But I don't know. I was expecting, I would say maybe more character out of. Or even just like maybe even more like memorable moments aside from, and why did they change math?
Yeah, like even when it comes to the action, really, he probably had the least to do even when it comes to the fight, because you think to the first movie he ran on water.
Yeah, another memorable scene. I remember, and when they mixed it with Michael Giacchino's, or that was a really amazing moment, and yeah, I mean, Gabby, do you, like,
I don't know. I think I've kind of went through all the points that I wanted to go over.
yeah,
Shall we wrap it up?
yeah, I think so. I mean, wrap it up with like our thoughts on the movie. I mean, Gabby, you definitely liked it. Steven, you liked it with some reservations. And me personally, I think I'm kind of like in between you two guys in that I really liked it, but I could definitely see either were some flaws.
Oh yeah, like it's not perfect, obviously, but it's fun.
Right. I'm not saying that you thought it was perfect. You know, we went over or that in this discussion. But yeah, definitely on my end, I definitely recommend Incredibles 2. Like, I guess for me, it was just a much better movie than I thought it was going to be. Because at this point, like, I just kind of, like, I've been talking about this a lot on my YouTube channel where I was saying I've become much more excited from what Disney XD offers compared to the Disney movies. And it often takes me going to see one of the movies like, you know, Coco, Moana, or Incredibles 2 to, you know, judge it for what it is and to just remember that, hey, it was actually pretty good, you know?
I will say, I will say, even regardless of how much I've been kind of banging on to this movie, apart from just being reunited with these characters, I will say this. Another thing that kind of disappointed me with the action is that with the first movie, it was kind of a lot of solo business, and then at the very end, they were all the team moves, and they managed to get it just right. With this one, the individual fights were honestly more impressive than when they were a team together, which was kind of disappointing. But what did stick out about this movie that I remember I loved in the first one, that I've also kind of been missing in a lot of the Marvel movies, it's not a big punch up at the end. A lot of these moments are primarily about saving people, and that's kind of what I missed from a lot of the recent Marvel movies. Like, the only one I can really think of that really focused on, like, the whole point about it is the least amount of life should be taken rather than how big of a spectacle it is, was Spider-Man Homecoming. And in my opinion, that's still one of the weaker Phase 3 movies. So it was nice to just see again, like, like, really impressive action set pieces that didn't involve just the amount of explosions or body counts that you can put on a chart.
Yeah, I definitely see what you mean. And I guess I know we said we were gonna wrap it up. I think I don't know what it is. Like, I'm like judging like fight scenes is not really my a forte. I mean, I'm trying to think of, like, I honestly thought, it's hard for me to say. I think I remember the group fight scenes a bit more than I did with, you know, not that Elastigirl scenes were bad, but I don't know.
Honestly, though, the motorcycle and subway chase paired off with the flying in the air with the helicopters is just like, uh, as much as they tried, it just never topped that when it came to full impressiveness. Like, those
Yeah.
had an energy to them that I didn't really get. I honestly got the only times when it felt like it had that energy again wasn't even in the action. It was with Jack scenes.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, I would say that was the most energetic like moment of the movie. Or I don't know if I'll say that because the climax had me on the edge of my seat.
Mm, I guess that's where we disagree. That final climax, I felt that was going way too long. Mainly because I don't think the newer heroes that they introduced were that interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the one...
like gay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, even when I look, the thing about the first Incredibles is if you go to the second disc, there is like an entire secret identity, like almost FBI database on each of the superheroes. And when you scroll through all those designs, you can pretty much count on the back of your head how many superheroes they must have used as like a basis for each of them. And with these new ones, they kind of felt like the rejects of those.
Yeah, pretty much. I remember going to that, like, database-looking feature on the second disc of the original Incredibles, but... Oh, Eric's coming in. But I didn't really look into that. But even just from impressions, I thought all the supers from the original movie were... They gave, like, a much more bold impression, I guess, than these ones in the second one. Like, I thought the one that shot the portals was kind of interesting, but the other ones just kind of felt, generic. Like, there was like a strong guy, there's one that kind of looks like a frog, and that's it. But,
so we ended that on a dour note. I'll just end it on a positive note. The best moments were when the family were together. More of Jack and Auntie Edna, please. And the most impressive fight scenes were actually when they were saving people. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, I think we already went around the table. I mean, I definitely still think it was a really good movie, and I definitely recommend it. So, I guess we'll end at that. And I know, Gaby, we've pretty much established that you really liked it. So, I guess we'll end things off here. Thank you guys for coming on, Steven and Gaby.
Thank you for having me.
And, yeah, I know I've been plugging your YouTube channel a lot, Steven, lately. Your Weirdy8 channel, where you started posting your short films and the Transformers compilation lately. I think I should still have that in the link below for those who still want to check it out. So, alright, guys.
Honestly, I'm kind of... I don't know when the next short is going to come out, since I'm just getting close to finishing the script. I'll send over a link to it in the group chat later.
Alright, then.
Yeah, cool. So, alright, guys, thanks for coming on. Bye! Alright, guys, so that is it for our live review of Incredibles 2. Thanks for watching. I mainly wanted to go live because I just wanted to, save time in terms of if I just recorded this like I normally did, it would take a long time to process. And I've even had cases where sometimes when I got done screen recording, the file wouldn't come out because recording it would just take so many resources. But when it's just posted live to YouTube, it just pretty much comes up when it's ready. I don't have to do any extra work. But alright, guys, so I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna do videos on the news that the Department of Justice has approved antitrust regulations for the Disney-Fox deal, with some reservations, and I've also got details on how the Canadian Olympic Committee has approved the Calgary 2026 bid. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'm hoping to do more of these live streams so I can get practice, so we won't have that echoey disaster that I had when I live streamed my Nintendo E3 2018 reactions with Ross Seb. So I'll let you guys know when our next live stream will be. It might be Samsung's Galaxy Note 9 event. They just announced details today. Let me just zoom in on my face now that the chat is over. But I'll announce details if that is actually going to be the next live stream. Until then, I will see you guys later, and thank you for tuning in, and please subscribe to the channel, and be sure to hit the bell to absolutely make sure when you'll be notified when my new videos will come out. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.